after the last triumph at Mexico 1986. We'll talk a little about that, but of course we'll be right here to talk about what appears to be the fact that Lagosians are still dealing with long queues and petrol scarcity despite the ultimatum given by the DSS. And how about the issue of politicians allegedly buying PVCs? How will it affect the 2023 general elections, or will it even affect the elections? Well, it's my cue to welcome you to another edition of the Newsroom, the program where we'll take a critical look at some of the big stories that have come your way or that we have reported from our newsroom right here to you on our various news bulletins. My name is Ufuoma Egbamuno. It's a pleasure to be here this evening because we have a lot to talk about. But first, let me just say how excited I am. I'm sure if you listen to Femi and the Gang or any of our sports shows that I have participated in, you will know how much I adore the certain little magician from Argentina. His name, Lionel Messi. Well, he crowned his almost 20 years of world domination yesterday with a superb display in a nerve-wracking World Cup final. My word, in all of my years of watching football finals at the World Cup, I have never seen a final like that. It was exhilarating. It had everything. It had absolutely amazing goals. It had comebacks. It had great penalties. It had players getting stuck in. It had yellow cards. You know, you just did not know who was going to win. And of course, in the cities of Buenos Aires and Rosario and all Argentine cities as we speak, people are still celebrating. So many people believe that, well, yesterday's victory means that Lionel Messi is the greatest of all times. Well, that debate possibly will continue because there is a certain Pelé who won the World Cup 3 times, albeit I would say the 1962 edition. Yeah, he got a medal, but I'm not sure. I'm honestly not sure what Pelé did in that World Cup because he only played a game, got injured, and he did not play for the rest of the competition. So in my books, Pelé actually was dominant for 2 World Cups, the 1958 as a youngster, and of course the 1970 where it was Brazil and Pelé's World Cup. Anyway, that got us talking the whole of last week, and I'm sure most of you are still talking about it. It's just me trying to, give a bit of the football and sports issues there. Not to worry, on Game On, Femi and the Gang will be coming from the 7 o'clock hour. You will hear a lot more about yesterday's final. But quickly, let's go on now on the show because it's time to talk about something that we've been dealing with for the better part of the last couple of weeks right here in Lagos and across the country. It is the issue of petrol scarcity and long queues. Remember that last week on the show, what we talked about was the DSS ultimatum to petrol marketers, and the NNPC. We had Mike Ejiofor, former DSS director, on the show. He did say it was not a threat, it was an ultimatum, and that, in Abuja, things have started working well. But today on the show, we're going to be looking at how far that has come. I was in a queue yesterday to buy petrol somewhere right here in VI. I think it's a lot worse out there in the mainland. Traffic, it's caused a lot of traffic almost everywhere. And prices of goods and commodities have also increased. Transport fares have increased. People are still standing on the road despite the fact that it is the Yuletide. Goodness me. Well, to help us make sense of all of this, we have the national president of the Independent Petroleum Association of Nigeria, Chinedu Okoronkwo, to join us on the show. We're trying to connect to him. Hopefully in the next minute or two, we will get that connection. But it would be good to also, have an idea of what it looks like over. But it looks like we've got our guest on the show now. A very good afternoon to you, sir.
Good evening.
Oh,
how are you?
Actually, evening. I'm very well. Good evening to you. Welcome to the newsroom on 99.3 Nigeria Info.
Okay.
All right, quickly, we want to talk about this petrol scarcity that has bedeviled the country, especially right here in Lagos, for weeks now. Could you tell us what exactly is the reason we have this petrol scarcity that doesn't seem to be going away?
What exactly what?
What exactly is the reason, the reason for the petrol scarcity?
And that we believe that it is not the way it used to be, that it's going down gradually, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
Good. A ripple of 1 week can give confusion maybe for 2 weeks. And like I said earlier in some of my interviews, that now that the NPC have started giving the independent petroleum market as a product direct, it's a matter of time, all these things will disappear. And I believe they have started. Then what needs to be done next is to monitor the compliance. I think that is what we are now putting ourselves together to monitor the compliance and ensure that the product gets to where it is meant for. All hands must also be on deck from your own end moving forward.
From my own end? Did you say from my own end?
Yes. So what I mean is that we might bring evidence of those who have loaded. You can also help us and announce it. Maybe people who are in social locations, social marketer have been given social number. Go there and take your product. That way, everybody is doing something to alleviate this so that the temptation to divert it might not be there. I think that is the way to go.
Okay. So you've talked about monitoring to ensure compliance. Has Ipman been monitoring? And what's the compliance level?
No, we want to start this week.
Okay. So hopefully we are going to get maybe by the end of the week.
Friday, get updates on our monitoring and
Okay, so there was this talk last week, even though it was debunked by Ipman's National Operations Controller Mike Osatuyi, but there were rumors that Ipman were actually planning to go on strike.
Ipman will do what?
We're planning to go on strike.
You'll panic?
We're planning to go on strike.
No, nothing like that.
So
it's not coming from the appropriate person. You don't go on strike. You are businessmen. You negotiate with government if there are things you think that are not intended to what is feel to be the way. I mean, there are ready to channels to go before talking about that. Strike for us, it's the last day of that day. More so, you have to pay your workers, you have to service your bank loans. So we need to contemplating strike when all these things are on this. So you can bring your matter to government and let them see. And I believe the government, they are not deaf. They will have to look at those problems and see how they resolve it. I think that is our achievement about us have been engaging in.
Okay, when I remember the first response you gave to my first question, you said something about the fact that now that NNPC is now giving the supplies directly. So does it mean that before now, Ipman was not getting directly from the NNPC?
Yes, at the time, because the practice when we started this scheme, Ipman, we get our product from the NNPC directly. So all of a sudden, our paradigm shift wherein the private and farm owners because of the vandalism that has taken part of the NPC's depot. We are now meant to be buying from them. You know, they are business people. By the time they put their profit and everything back and now bring it to the market. That is why we have been complaining. We cannot buy at a high cost and come to our filling station to begin to sell. You know, the government, I don't think in their ways of how to also see what they are paying. Because some of them will sell maybe 250, but in their own private filling station, they begin to sell 170. For us, it's a blackmail, blackmailing our members. And that is why we have also tried to government and they don't do, and they are doing something in that regard. So that we'll get our product directly the way it should be.
Okay, so just for the records, are you assuring Nigerians who are tuned into Nigeria Info right now that in the course of these Yuletide, this Christmas and New Year celebrations,
insofar we are giving products directly, we must make sure the availability is guaranteed. We don't get meat.
I heard that caveat. As so far you get it. you're speaking like a politician. Okay. My final question to you would be, the fact that Nigerians really are worried. This whole petrol scarcity, it's become a recurrent decimal, and of course the federal government has said that by June next year, petrol subsidies will be taken away. Can you give us an idea of what petrol would most likely sell at when these petrol subsidies are taken off?
There are factors that make us to, if dollar is low and the dollarization of activities in the downstream sector is eliminated, we might even buy products at a cheaper price. Some of these high in price is factors that has to push it, like dollar. How much is the dollar? And our own agencies here collecting money in dollar, and these people will resort to buy this dollar as black market. The pressure and everything, those are the factors we don't see, but they go a long way to disrupt, business.
Yes.
I believe by the time government is firm about this, and do what they're supposed to do the needful, things will naturally go very, very fast.
Yeah, you said something that, sorry, I said it was going to be the last question, but you said something that I possibly need some form of explanation because of course, the audience listening. You said the dollarization of the downstream sector. Could you break that down?
Dollarization of activities.
Yeah, could you break that down? Explain a bit.
Government agency is collecting money in dollars, MPA in dollars. So where would these people get this money, all these operators? They will resort to black market. And black market, whereas within government rate could go for 400, and then black market you get it for 700, and that 300 is a huge margin. We want to apply that. That is what we're saying.
Okay. Now you've explained it better. Thank you very much, Mr. Chinedu Okoronkwo, for joining us on the newsroom this evening. We appreciate your time.
The national president of this man.
Exactly. I was about to say that. That was, of course, the national president of the Independent Petroleum Association of Nigeria, Mr. Chinedu Okoronkwo, joining us on the newsroom this evening. Thank you very much. We appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so that will be my cue to move on now on the show. If you just joined us, it is 99.3 Nigeria Info. The program is The Newsroom. My name is Ufuoma Egbamuno, and of course you can watch this live on our Facebook page, Nigeria Info 993, or on our YouTube page, it is Nigeria Info FM. Now, the Independent National Electoral Commission has warned politicians to desist from purchasing the permanent voters card for use on election day. The commission insists that there will be no voting without PVC. And INEC National Commissioner was on Channels TV yesterday. And Mr. Festus Okoye says BVAS will be used for the accreditation and authentication of voters, and that it will reject biometric data of persons who are not the original owners of the PVCs. Now, of course, all of this is coming as there have been allegations from some certain quarters that politicians are currently buying PVCs, to be able to influence the election. The Social Economic Rights Accountability Program, SERAP, is also calling for the rest of politicians who are allegedly buying the PVCs from Nigeria and bring them to justice. SERAP says this is a threat to fair and representative elections as it amounts to vote buying, undue influence, and improper electoral influence. And trust me, I do not totally disagree with SERAP's thoughts right there. Because the question will be, yes, indeed, some politicians, according to what we've heard, are actually buying these PVCs. Is it going to have any effect on the elections come 2023? Well, that's what we'll be talking right about now, because we've got the executive director of Yaga Africa joining us on the newsroom this evening. Mr. Samson Itodo, welcome to the newsroom. Good evening to you.
Very good evening to you.
Yes, good evening and welcome to Nigeria Info this evening. I'm sure you must have heard me, give that little bit of intro as it concerns the allegations that some politicians are possibly buying PVCs. How did we even get here? How did we get to the point where, these allegations are coming up?
Well, I think we got to a point where these allegations are coming up because politicians are desperate to undermine the credibility of the next election. They just want to rig the elections and get power by all cost. And so whatever it takes for them to win the elections, they are willing to do so. One, why are politicians buying PVCs? They are buying PVCs to suppress the votes of people who would vote next year. Because voter suppression is one tool being used by politicians to manipulate the elections coming up next year. And that is unacceptable. The second is this whole purchase of PVCs. Beyond voter suppression, they are also using that as a means to dilute and undermine the votes of their opponents, because some of these are happening in the strongholds of their opponents. And that, again, it's disturbing for our electoral process. The third, and perhaps also the disturbing one, and where politicians miss it, some of them are buying those PVCs under the belief that they will get people to vote for them, by proxy in the next election. And with the BVAS, I don't think that's going to be possible, where people can vote by proxy. And so what we need to demand is this report. These things are happening, but we have not seen anyone prosecuted for buying PVCs. So we hope that security agencies will investigate, and not just investigate, but prosecute people, so it serves as a deterrent to politicians who want to buy PVCs off people and deprive people their rights to vote.
So why do you think? I probably have a clue or an answer to it, but I would like to hear from you. Why do you think that anybody would agree to sell their PVC?
Well, one could be misinformation, or one could also, secondly, it could just be, ignorance. Because there are people who don't know that their PVC is their power. There are people who think that it is right, and there's nothing wrong with selling their PVC. For everyone who is listening, it is a criminal offense, an offense in the law to sell your PVC. Because the PVC is your access to a quality and a good life. And anyone who buys it off you is actually buying your voice, is stripping you of the opportunity, to select a leader that can solve the problems in society. The second is there's just no explanation. If you are selling your PVCs because of the pittance, because of the small money that politicians are providing you, I tell you, it will only help you for just a few hours. And after that, you are back to this misery and this horrible life of insecurity, of bad governance, of lack of jobs, as well as a weak economy.
But some would say at all, nine bad pass. That give or
take. No. Whether at all, nine bad pass. At all, bad like that. Because we think be at all, nine bad pass, where you will deprive yourself, of the opportunity to select someone who can provide security for you, someone who can lead and address the problems that you have, or someone that can give you a good life. So I don't think that at all. It's an acceptable explanation. And I'll say this again. See, that PVC where we get, it's the most important power that we have to either hire and fire leaders that have not performed when you give them the opportunity to do so, and elect people who can solve problems. Leadership is about solving problems. Just check your life. Has your life been better in the last couple of years? Now you have an opportunity to make your life better. And not just your own life, the life of your children and the life of your children's children. And so when you say at all, naim bad pass, and you take the 1,000 or 2,000, for heaven's sake, what will 1,000 or 2,000 or even 5,000 do for you in this economy that we are? So just think about, the next 4 years. And I tell you, it is not worth it to sell your PVCs for any amount, because that person who is buying your PVC is buying your PVC for a very important reason, and they don't want you to ask them questions when they get into office. So they will buy the PVCs now to silence you, and then you now have to suffer for the next 4 years. Because if you complain after, they'll say, but I thought I don't buy your voice. So you won't even have any right to even ask any question or complain after all.
All right, just in case you just joined us, it is the Newsroom on 99.3 Nigeria Info. My name is Ufuoma Egbamuno. I've got the Executive Director of Yaga Africa, Samson Itodo, on this half of the show. Mr. Samson, INEC, started giving out PVCs about a week ago or thereabout. But there have been several complaints about the process. What do you think can be done, for INEC or by INEC to ease off all of these complaints so that people can get their PVCs?
The first thing that needs to happen is the location where they are distributing these PVCs is too far from the people. And that's the local government level. And INEC says they will give people should come collect their PVCs from their ward, which is closer to them, from the 6th of January. We are looking forward to that time, because the closer you take the PVC to the people, the easier and better it is for people to collect their PVC. Like yesterday, I joined the resident electoral commissioner of INEC to 2 local governments in Aghogho and then Ifake LGA to go and observe the whole process of PVC collection. And I tell you, the PVCs are being collected, but the turnout as at yesterday was very poor. And I know one of the reasons is because the local government offices is far from people. But INEC is going to bring the PVCs closer to you in your wards across the country from January 6th to 15th of January. So please prepare to collect your PVCs at that time. So you go to your ward. But INEC also needs to announce to people and publish the place in the ward where they are collecting the PVC. So people will know, because some of those places are public locations. If people don't know that this thing is coming to their ward and they don't know the actual location of the ward where they can collect their PVC, then it's going to create confusion. The second is people have showed up to collect their PVCs and they are told that their PVCs are not ready. Now, INEC also needs to make people's PVCs available for them. When people show up, people should have at least an explanation of what happened to their PVCs if the PVCs are not ready, and INEC should tell them when they are going to come collect their PVCs. Now, the other thing with the PVC collection process is, if you recall, due to some incomplete information or incomplete registration, as well as multiple registration, INEC invalidated some register records during the voter registration. Now, the people whose records have been invalidated are not aware that their records have been invalidated. Now, what INEC also needs to do is perhaps communicate to the people whose records have been invalidated and tell them there is no need to show up because their records have been invalidated for so reasons. So they don't show up and then waste their time. And after wasting their time standing on queues, they are now told that they do not have any records for them. That can create tension, and that can also lead to violence. And that's something INEC needs to be mindful of. I think the last critical thing about the PVC collection is people, voter education. People need to know that their PVCs are ready. And INEC has this record. They have the phone numbers of people. They have the email addresses of people. So INEC should send text messages to people to inform them that their PVCs are ready at so location and at so time. So people can come and collect. I don't think this is a process that should be made complex for people. If we are interested in more participation in the electoral process, then what we need to do is to make the process simple, easier, and seamless for people to participate. When we start creating difficulties and make the process so complex, it can serve as a disincentive to participating in the election.
All right. On a final note, I would like to ask you, Samson, what do you think CSOs like yours and others, how can you guys work with INEC to ensure a free, fair, and credible election next year? Because a lot of Nigerians are really looking forward to 2023's election.
Well, three things we are doing. One, we're just helping INEC get the word out and trying to get citizens aware of this process so they can participate. So voter education is something that we are doing on our own level and in different parts of the country. We've got this project called 60% of Us, where we're trying to mobilize 60% of young people to come out and vote in the next election. But it begins with collecting their PVCs. So voter education, complementing INEC efforts of voter education, is one thing that we do. The second thing that we also do is to keep an eye over the process and ensure that we protect the integrity of the process through election observation. One of the things that we do at Yaga Africa, we do pre-election observation. We just issued our first pre-election observation report where we highlighted a few early warning signs and also provided information on the status of INEC's preparations in all the 774 local governments. Because Yaga Africa has long-term observers in all the 774 local governments of Nigeria. And they've been sending in reports about the level of preparations, for INEC, as well as other stakeholders. The third thing we are doing is to also hold institutions to account, especially our security agencies. You can see the level of pre-election violence. We're also asking questions on what, they are doing to protect, candidates, to protect the voters and as well as their supporters. Because we have grave concerns about the level of security and how security is being managed in this pre-election period. But also tied to that is this whole issue of executive impunity, where we have seen state governments impose some draconian rules and regulations.
Rivers State comes to mind.
Opposition. Rivers comes to mind. Borno comes to mind. Kano also comes to mind. Ebonyi comes to mind. Kogi also comes to mind, where governors are imposing all sorts of fees and charges for posting of billboards. And in cases where, candidates and parties have paid those fees, they still deprive them of the right to use facilities and this. And that does not bode well for our electoral process. Elections have to be fair. And so every party, every candidate needs to be given a level playing field. And only then can you say election has met the test of fairness. But the way we are going in some of the states, I don't think that this election will meet that test of fairness. Okay. And again, it is a negative when it comes to our democratic experience.
All right, we would have to leave it at that. Thank you very much, Mr. Samson Itodo, who is the Executive Director of Yaga Africa. Thank you for joining us on the newsroom this evening.
All right, thank you very much.
All right, guys. Yes, that's the much we have for you. But before we go, we'd like to take a few thoughts and reactions on some of the issues we've talked about. I did start the show today, talking about the World Cup and Lionel Messi finally getting that trophy that has eluded him in his absolutely amazing career. And of course, we spoke to Mr. Chinedu Okoronkwo, the national president of IPMAN, who says that for as long as NNPC continues to give them the product directly, we will have less of petrol scarcity and long queues as we've experienced. And of course, we've just spoken to Yaga Africa Executive Director Samson Itodo on PVCs and all of the issues surrounding it. Well, 0700 993 993 993. Let's take a few of your thoughts. Hello, good evening. Okay, Emmanuel's village people have come to disturb us. Good evening to you.
Good evening.
Hi, welcome to the newsroom.
Yeah, good evening, sir.
Good evening. What's your name?
And the man from Yaga Africa. Good evening, sir.
He's actually gone off, but you can go ahead with your thoughts.
It's like the question, I want to direct my question to him. My name is Chifu Gochuku.
Oh, dear. All right, just ask us the question. Let's see.
I want to ask him, when a primary election, somebody will buy a form, 50,000, 30,000, 100,000. At the end of the day, the last minute, you see that person chicken out, surrender his distance to one man. If that is not vote buy, is there anything worse than that one? Another question I want to ask the man, because they claim that they are one angel from heaven. Another question I want to ask him, how good is it that a friend will rule Nigeria for 80 years? Another friendly man will enter again in a country.
Okay. All right, but I'm not particularly certain Mr. Sampson would have an answer to your second question. Neither would I. At the end of the day, it boils down to the political parties. The political parties decide who is their candidate. Maybe for diversity's sake, yes, you might have issues, in a multicultural society as ours. It's one or two persons might have issues with a particular tribe dominating the politics, but at the end of the day, there's little or nothing you can do. What I would advise is go join a political party, so that you can as well influence the outcome of these primaries. Hello, good evening. Man, your village people. Hello, good evening. Welcome to the newsroom.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
Hello.
I can hear you.
Okay, I just want to comment about the World Cup. I'm very happy for Messi.
Okay.
For finally having a World Cup for his record. I'm very, very happy with that I call.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. And that will be a cue to wrap up today's edition. Someone on WhatsApp says, good evening, Ma. Please, can I still collect my PVC, which I registered for in 2017? Yes, you can. Go to the INEC office where you registered, and they will definitely give you answers to your question. Well, guys, we'll be back again, hopefully, maybe next week. Next week, Monday, is actually the 26th. It's actually a public holiday. Maybe Egbamuno will be somewhere eating rice and chicken because the missus is somewhere around. Let's go and eat the Christmas. Emmanuel, why are you looking at me like this? It's not my fault that you are single.
Don't make me on my man.
It's not my fault that you are single, Emmanuel. I'm married, so I'll eat the rice that Mrs. is going to cook.
So why you rubbing it on me? Just why?
Well, kudos to Nena Precious Okon for producing the show today. Little help from Emmanuel Onwoka, who is single and says he's not searching, but I will not give him Christmas rice. And of course, to every member of the Nigeria Info, Cool FM, and Wazobia Newsroom, thank you for listening to us. Hopefully, the rest of the programs will continue. Game On is up next from the 7 o'clock hour. I'm sure for all of you sports fans who still want to talk about King Leo and that amazing World Cup win, well, you've got a chance. My name is Ufuoma Egbamuno. Stay safe, people.